Well, we'd much rather be talking about tonight's game. Much rather talk about this stuff later on, but we just felt like it was a trade that would help our team. And Quincy's a guy that we've had. He knows me. We're always looking for wing defenders, and we feel like we got one who can also knock down a shot.
Coach, you'll also start your longest road trip this season
Yeah.
tonight. What are your thoughts as you embark upon this 5-game trip?
Well, we've talked about taking every game seriously, as we always do, but trying to separate ourselves from 500. We played really good basketball and then hadn't played as consistent as we would like. And so we're looking at this trip not as a business trip, because they're all business games, but we've termed it a separation trip. And we're trying to compete at a high level against a really good team, try to get a win in a tough environment, try to keep getting better.
Coach, do you feel like you're close to taking that step as a team?
Well, we'll see. We feel like it. We've worked really hard at it. All of our guys want to. All the stuff is in place for us to do that, and we just got to go out there and execute it.
Tell me about the Boston Celtics. What do you see most in them?
Play hard. Guards who like to agitate off of DHO actions, dribble handoff, and they have some bigs who can shoot the ball. A lot of guys on their team that you take for granted, like Brandon Bass, who comes off the bench and has been in a number of playoff games, and he's just a really good player. And then they just have a lot of young guards. Avery Bradley gets after the ball. Smart is another guy who can get after the ball, and they just have a lot of pieces on their team that they just get after you.
Coach, it seems like they like to play fast.
Yeah.
You also like to move too a little bit. Do those things go well together?
Well, they're number one in the league right now. It changes from day to day, but we like that style. We feel like we can play that way as long as we're not turning the ball over and rebounding. We feel like we can play with anyone at that pace.
Coach, thanks. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Monty, what facilitated the trade? You guys invested a lot in Austin's couple years, a lot of it.
We just, like I said, we felt like we could use another wing defender. We did put a lot into Austin, and we wish him nothing but the best. But when the opportunity came to get someone like Quincy, we felt the same way as picking up someone like Dante. And, we've been looking for a small forward. It's a great chance for us to improve our team.
When do you expect to have Quincy?
We don't know. They got to go through all the physicals and stuff like that. And I think they're finishing up or finished. I'm not sure. Like I said, game day, I'd like to talk about the team that we're playing instead of all this other stuff, so I'm not sure.
Monty, how different was Austin knowing him the way you do, as long as you've known him, to see him move on? Is that different, unique from when other guys have left for you?
I separated myself from that when we drafted him. I couldn't do all that stuff. I think media made more out of it than we ever did. What we tried to do was make Austin a better player, and we poured into him that way. And so I feel the same way about Austin as I do many of our guys who we've had a lot of time with on the floor and off the floor. When they have to leave, it's emotional. And Austin's no different than a Trevor Ariza or Willie Green, Jared Jack, guys like that who've been in our program and have moved on.
What are the Celtics getting in Austin Rivers? What type of player is he?
A young guard who's hungry, can attack the basket, and he's so young. His game is ahead of him. He's gotten a bad rap for lack of development. He's developed nicely. He's just not where he would want to be, but he's only 22 years old, so I think he'd be a senior in college. And he's got a lot of basketball ahead of him, so I'm sure that Danny, he doesn't make many mistakes, and so I'm sure he's looked at all that and feel like they're getting a good player.
Coach, how is it to coach a guy like Anthony, where he's got so much upside and potential?
Yeah.
You've got to rein that all in, but also seems like a real great kid.
Yeah, you just coach him. That's been my style. All of our guys know when they come here they're going to be coached, and he's been really receptive to coaching. But there's a responsibility with that kind of talent, and you don't want to mess it up. And so there's a fine line. So we talk a lot. He has freedom to play, and at the same time, he does it within the confines of our system, and that's rare for a guy with his talent.
His defensive IQ, is it soaring?
It's getting better every year. You can tell. I mean, he understands more about the league. He's starting to say things at the same time that we're saying it in scouting reports, and that's when you know a young player is picking it up, when he knows what to expect. Things are more natural for him on the floor.
When you or anyone else evaluates his progress, how much should the team's win-loss record be a part of that?
A big part of it, but that's no knock on him. A lot of guys are really good players and don't have the records that they want. But we're still early in the season, so we have a ways to go.
But in the short term, how much we have to tinker with rotations, given that also you won't have that extra guard?
Tonight may be a little different, but after that, I feel like once we get Quincy, we can start to nail it down a little bit. But our guys are ready for adjustments, as we said the other day. We've dealt with that for 5 years, so it's not a big deal for us.
In what ways is Quincy different?
Say that again?
In what ways is Quincy different now compared to when you had him 4 years ago?
He was a better shooter. Coach Freddie worked with him for a while on his shot that year. Right when he got his shot down, and we traded him. So he's a much better shooter. He's more experienced. He's been in a lot of playoff games. I'm sure his IQ is higher, having been in a really good program with Coach Howlands and Yeager. So we feel like we're getting a player who's got really good basketball ahead of him.